Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. This is the fourth installment of the parenting webinar. So we were talking about creating loving and caring environment for your children that develops the nurturing child. So in today's discussion, we're going to be talking about encouragement and support. I'm going to start off with a story that happened many years ago. I was seeing a family with a Down syndrome child, and the father, who was seeing that progress was being made, was walking me back to my car after I was seeing the family, and he obviously wanted to talk to me privately. And he says to me, "So let me ask you, David, where will my child get up to?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What age do you think my child will be at?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know, but I can tell you this. The day you stop teaching him is the day he'll stop learning." And what I found a lot of times, we create our own barriers around our children and what we think they can accomplish. We stop at encouraging and supporting them, thinking that it won't matter anyway. And what we do is a disservice to them in holding them back. I'll give you another example, and this happened actually, I think, 2 weeks ago. I was seeing a young lady who was telling me about her issues with math. You see, this young lady believed she couldn't do math. Math was not her subject. And I challenged her on that. Why wouldn't math be her subject? What is it about math that is difficult? And we discussed it in great detail. And 2 weeks ago, she showed me her test, and she says, "I got the highest mark in class on this math test." So I looked at her and laughed, and I said, "That's awesome. I thought you couldn't do math." Of course, she laughed. Because the concept was that by challenging her idea that she couldn't do something, she was able to see the possibility that she could, and that she actually did. Encouraging and supporting our children is the most important thing you can do to help them understand the glass ceiling is higher and higher. Did you ever notice that the world records keep getting broken one after one after one? See, when somebody sees that the world record could be broken, they think, "Oh, if they could do it, possibly I can," which then makes them try to do more and more. So it is incredibly important to understand that if you see your child can't do something, the word "can't" comes out of your mouth, you're setting your child up for failure. Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I actually recommend in one of my videos, he talks about this exact concept, about the idea that you should never use the word "can't" in a sentence. What you should say instead, "How can I? I'm having difficulty in the subject. How can I make it better?" I was seeing a child this week who going through a very difficult time with a subject. And I said to him, "When you were learning your ABCs, I heard you had a problem with the letter D." I go, "Do you still have that problem today?" He looked at me and said, "No, I know the letter D very well." I said, "Well, how do you think that happened?" I go, "Right now you're having a difficulty with this. And another year from now, you're going to look back at this and go, that was easy too." And that's how you could be affirming to a child who's having difficulty, by helping them recognize their capacity to learn. And you want to help the child to understand that they have the capacity to learn anything. Given enough time and effort, almost every child can learn anything. The problem is we get lazy, or we don't have the time, and we don't want to help them enough to get there. Sometimes we just don't know how to teach something, but then we can go and find some place where we can. A great resource is Khan Academy. It's a wonderful resource for kids. It's free, and they teach virtually almost all subjects. So if you yourself are not clear about how to teach something, there's a place where you can watch it with your child, hear it from somebody who's a professional, listen, and then reteach again what the child didn't understand or learn. But this is about affirming the child's ability to do these things. The next thing you want to do with a child in terms of encouraging and support is encourage the child to follow through on their interests. Things that they like, things that they enjoy. When a child is very engrossed in their own growth or things that they enjoy, they're more likely to do certain things. I remember this, again, a story from many years ago. I was seeing a mother, single mom, with her son who was having a lot of behavioral issues. And the son wanted to play football. And this kid, was one of those kids that really loved the game of football. And the mother was very concerned because, children can get hurt playing football. And I said to the mother, I go, you're absolutely right. There's a potential for a child getting hurt by playing football. I go, but there's a definite hurt that your child's having by not playing football right now. So you have to weigh the potential versus the actual. And sure enough, she allowed the child to play, again, provided certain things were done, like his homework, behavioral things, chores. And when the child felt that he could actually gain that, he became a different child, and their relationship actually got much better. So it's important to allow the child to explore their desires and needs and goals. Allow your children that. It's very important. The next one is allowing children to disagree with you. Children will have their own opinions. They're going to have their own thought process about things. And it's okay that they disagree or they don't follow what you say immediately. You want to give them that capacity to be able to say what they believe. And it's not important to convince them that you're right. Children should have the right to have their own opinions. And they have the right to be wrong. Eventually, they'll learn about the difference of right and wrong and, as they get older and cognitively grow. But, more importantly, you have to give them that right. And it doesn't mean they get to decide what happens. Don't confuse the two. Okay? The child doesn't get to make the rules, but they have the right to their own opinions. Now, the next part is one of the most vital parts about encouraging and support, and that's recognizing improvement. I went over to a teacher this last week, and I said to the teacher, one of the kids told me that he took out his book, had it on his desk, and he read from it for it. And the teacher went, yeah, but it was only one sentence. And I spoke to the principal about that specific issue. Because the problem is, if you don't encourage and support the improvement of a child, it loses all steam. That is striking while the iron's hot. The child was making the action to do something better. That's when you want to become as much positive as possible. And believe me, I did. I was so happy. I was explaining. And by the way, the beaming of the child's face based upon the support was immense. And it's more likely he'll want to do it again. But when you have the attitude of, that's not a big deal, that's not good enough, that's a problem. And I'm reminded of many, many years ago, this is going back before I was a therapist, I was a camp counselor. And there was a boy in my bunk who was doing, shall we say, just physically was not gifted. And the mother, was saying how socially it was very difficult for him. And I said, listen, if you like, you can bring him over on Sunday afternoon, and I'll work with your son for about an hour and a half on basic skills. And sure enough, we did. I remember starting with kickball. And I will never forget this kid when he got this first time where he kicked the ball, and he actually got on base the first time. It was like he won the World Series. And the mother told me it was his best summer ever. And it was, again, not because he became the best player on the team, and it wasn't that he was the most amazing thing that he did. He saw improvement in himself. And seeing improvement in himself was able to help him to build his own self-esteem. And that's the important thing that we have to see within ourselves also, is when we improve on something. It's not all or nothing. It's I did better today than I did yesterday. And that's why that's a very important aspect, which goes back to the next part, teaching new skills. We want our children to be self-sufficient. We don't want to be wiping them when they're 11 years old. We don't want to start potty training at 4 months old, but we want to help them to do the right skill at the right time. And we want to work with them till they get there. That also improves their self-esteem. And when you encourage them and support them in building that, it makes them feel better about who and what they are. The next part of encouraging and support is let them make their mistakes. Children learn more from making a mistake and an error than being told, no, this is the way you do it, and not explained or understood how. Let them make mistakes. Let them understand what their mistakes look like. And it's a very powerful teaching tool. And when you parent from this point of view, when you help them to understand how these things work, it's a much more powerful way of parenting. It's more respectful to the relationship. It builds self-esteem. And it helps your child to develop a stronger sense of self. Again, if you have a comment, please feel free to write. I will respond. If you have a question, please feel free to write. I will respond. If you like this video, please like it. If you dislike this video, please tell me why. And again, if you want to support this endeavor, subscribe to the channel. And if you like, hit Subcribe-star and become a patron and support it as well. I thank you. And I think next time I'll be discussing giving affection to children, because that's another aspect that sometimes is neglected in terms of parenting. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.